So apparently, humans have been smoking tobacco for over 10,000 years, and according to this article, 12,300 years ago, which I find to be pretty interesting. Like I wouldn't say it's surprising because it's probably not really surprising, and I have to say interesting because all of my previous videos I'm always saying interesting. So since I thought this was an interesting topic, I figured I'd share it with you. This is a pretty recent article as well. So, humans may have smoked tobacco 12,300 years ago, scientists find in new evidence in Utah. So, what they found was a bunch of small tobacco seeds that were, I guess, placed in probably a pipe of some sort or whatever, but they were smoked 12,000 years ago. And originally, they thought that humans only started smoking tobacco around 3,000 years ago. Let's take a look at it. So it's at Wishbone site in northwestern Utah. Humankind's, we don't say mankind anymore. Humankind's addiction to tobacco runs deep. Archaeologists in Utah have discovered what appears to be the earliest known use of wild tobacco, stretching back 12,500 years, some 9,000 years earlier than the previously dated evidence. So yeah, like humans have always been trying to alter their consciousness. So from alcohol to tobacco to marijuana to, peyote, all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure that they figured out relatively quickly that if they chewed or smoked this particular herb, that they would have some sort of different sensation. And they were getting a dopamine hit from the use of the tobacco plant with nicotine. And if you're living back then, maybe your life expectancy is like 40 or something. So who cares if you're smoking tobacco? But I think some of that data with the life expectancy gets a little bit misconstrued because they take into account childhood deaths. I mean, I guess you should count that, of course, but I think it's something for the Romans. We say that they had an average lifespan of 35 to 40 years, but that's taken into account childhood fatalities or oftentimes like infant fatalities. So if you remove that, they would oftentimes lived to be like at least 60 or so. And I think Marcus Aurelius was like 60 something when he died. And granted, he was the most powerful man on the planet and had more wealth and luxury than most individuals, but still. A team from the Far Western Anthropological Research Group in Henderson, Nevada, and the Crow Canyon Archaeological Center in Cortez, Colorado, found Nicotiana attenuata, or coyote tobacco, seeds around a man-made hearth or fire pit at the Wishbone site in Utah's Great Salt Lake Desert, not far from Salt Lake City. The researchers published their findings in the journal Nature Human Behavior. Wishbone got its name from the large number of waterfowl bones found at the site, where ducks were likely the mainstay of the prehistoric human diet. But tobacco wouldn't have grown in what was then a marshy area, with its closest natural habitat some 8 miles away. So yeah, I mean, if you have a nicotine addiction and you can't go down to your local supermarket or whatever and get yourself a pack of cigarettes, you'd probably walk that 8 miles down to get what you need. It was a completely out of nowhere find. It's very uncommon to find tobacco seeds, even at later sites. They are really small and they are not food, so they don't occur very often. Far Western's Darren Duke, the paper's lead author, told Haaretz. Theoretically, it is possible a duck could nibble on a tobacco plant, but that duck would have to avoid hundreds of square kilometers of its typical diet, go up a Rocky Mountain range, which they don't do, and eat a fairly uncommon plant. Yeah, I mean, I guess animals can get addicted to nicotine like any other, species, but I guess there's that chimp in some zoo that was smoking cigarettes all the time. It was like everybody was giving him cigarettes, so he got addicted to cigarettes. So you always had to like have a pack and smoke them, or you get like really cranky and mean. And the last thing you want is a chimpanzee that's already very ferocious and powerful to not have his daily nicotine needs met. You can only imagine the chaos that would involve, Views of 12,300-year-old burned tobacco seed found at the Wishbone archaeological site in Utah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Also in the ashes were seeds from other plants that ancient humans are known to have consumed, suggesting that people intentionally brought tobacco seeds to the site. The population at Wishbone appears to have traveled widely each year. Oh yeah, they brought tobacco to that site. You're working all day, hunting down some mammoths or whatever, scouring the fields and the barren wasteland that you're living in to try to find some food. celebrate after you're done a hard day's work of hunting down the mammoth. You come back to the cave, set the fire, build a mammoth hut, eat some good food, then smoke some tobacco seeds or chew on them. Yeah, here we go, right here about the dopamine high. The seeds wouldn't have burned well, so they were probably not being used to feed the fire. Most likely, the ancients liked to chew tobacco, releasing the addictive nicotine for a dopamine high. And also, it would give them like a little jolt, and it would suppress their appetites if they're out, like 3 or 4 days trying to hunt down some food. I'm sure that's what they did. To see them fireside using tobacco, we can pretty readily imagine what they were getting out of it, Duke told Scientific American. It's very human to imbibe. Indeed it is. Duke has been conducting research of wishbone in the Utah test and training range for 20 years and found the remnants of the ancient hearth, just a little black smudge in the open mud flats of the Great Salt Lake Desert, he told CNN back in 2015. The site has also yielded Hasket-style spear tips made from obsidian, a kind of volcanic glass that would have been used to hunt large game. Wishbone has a unique potential to tell us about how people live, Duke told Inverse. It truly is a fascinating place to work, as one of the most barren settings you can find in the United States. To figure out what materials have been left behind in the ashes, scientists use a technique called manual flotation, submerging the sediment samples in water and separating organic and non-organic material. Radiocarbon dating showed the fire burned approximately 12,300 years ago, with 4 wild tobacco seeds identified amid the charred remains. Yeah, that must have been something else, to be the first person to discover tobacco. So if you think about it, at some point in time, humans never used tobacco or any other kind of, addictive plant. But then one day some guy or perhaps a woman, was out and then probably would just I'm guessing, see another animal chew the plant and then decide that it's safe, or they would just maybe smell it or, try it out and see if they could eat it and not die. And unfortunately for them, that would suck if you grab all these tobacco seeds and then you leave where you found them and then you get strung out on nicotine and you can't go back. So there's the chieftain of the tribe. He's chewing or smoking his tobacco and he's really enjoying it. And then he runs out and he gets all pissed off and starts yelling at everybody. I'm sure something like that probably happened. Before the team's discovery, the earliest documented use of tobacco was in smoking pipes used in the Alabama region some 3,300 years ago, which was dated in 2018. The new evidence suggests that tobacco use was already firmly entrenched in Native American cultures by that point in time. Yeah, I can see that. And for some reason, if you, all tobacco is addictive, cigars or pipes, especially cigarettes, of course. But for some reason, I personally don't find cigars or pipes to be as addictive. I think it's probably because you're not inhaling, and that's probably what the main thing is. And the way the cigarettes are made, and I guess they add some additional chemicals to make them more addicting. So these Native Americans, they were, they'd smoke a pipe maybe once a night or something, or every few nights, after doing all this stuff throughout the day. It wasn't like they were sitting around, rolling up tobacco and leaves and smoking 20 cigarettes a day. People in the past were the ultimate botanists and identified the intoxicant values of tobacco quickly upon arriving in the Americas, Duke told Life Science. Well, in addition to, the intoxicating effects of nicotine, tobacco is really good for bee stings. I remember being a kid, I got stung by a wasp. I think it was a wasp. And my dad took he smoked Camel non-filters. So he took a Camel, broke it apart, put some saliva on it, and then put it on the sting, and instantly it was just gone. The bee sting went away, or the wasp sting. And I guess it's because there's an alkaline in tobacco with the nicotine that absorbs and pulls out the poison from the sting. It's crazy how good that works. You can check it out sometime. When I was working, one of my employees, she got stung in the eye, close to the eye. And it was recommended, she talked to her mom, who was an RN, and she said that, putting tobacco on it would actually help. Now, this isn't medical advice or anything, but I'm just telling you that from what I've experienced, what I've heard people say, and from what I've seen, for whatever reason, putting tobacco on bee stings helps nullify and mute that pain from that. It's almost instantaneous. It's crazy how good it works. The long-held Clovis theory suggests that people began traveling over the land bridge that connected Siberia and Alaska some 13,500 to 13,000 years ago. But some recent archaeological discoveries, including the continent's oldest human footprints, suggest that pre-Clovis people had a presence in North America during the Ice Age, perhaps up to 20,000 or 30,000 years ago. On a global scale, tobacco is a king of intoxicant plants, and now we can directly trace its cultural roots to the Ice Age, Duke told Reuters. So I thought that was a pretty cool article about this. I think they found all kinds of different medicinal purposes for tobacco as opposed to just specifically smoking it, like I was talking about with like for bee stings and whatever. It might have some other natural capabilities to it. And I think that goes for like a lot of plants. Like it's almost like every plant that we use illicitly or use inappropriately does have a positive medicinal purpose. It's just humans have the capacity to abuse such things. Well, thanks a lot for checking out this video. I'm going to cut this one short. So until next time, take care.